Senator from Queensland, James McGrath, LNP Senator there. Hey, James, Fatima Payman, Lydia Thorpe, Pauline Hanson. I mean, poor Pauline is just trying to hold up the integrity of the Constitution. Fatima Payman was screaming like a shrew, calling her a racist and many other things. And then you had Lydia Thorpe putting up the finger and walking out the door, and now she is, of course, suspended.
The Senate this afternoon was a really ugly place. And as you pointed out, Pauline was just trying to do her job. As a senator, she was trying to table some documents. But the Greens and the left-wing crossbench didn't want her to do that. They went completely feral. It was ugly. But in the good news that everybody watching this program, I think, has wanted to hear for some time, that Lydia Thorpe has been suspended from the Senate. It's only until close of play tomorrow, but that's still, a day and a half where she can't come into the Senate and behave like an uncontrollable toddler who just thinks it's all about her. The Senate today was an ugly place.
Just to answer this question for me, Trudy McIntosh said she'd been hearing that she's going to try it on tomorrow. She's going to try and go into the Senate anyway. Is this where Black Rod will step up with the rod, we hope?
This is where the Black Rod and the attendants will be involved, and whoever is sitting in the chair as Deputy President or President will need to make the order that Senator Thorpe is not allowed into the chamber. But Senator Thorpe, like the Greens, it's always about them. It's always about their own selfishness, not about the fact that the Senate has a range of views. We've got to respect each other. It's a workplace. If she's going to do that, it's just going to be an ugly day tomorrow in the Senate. We've got business to do. We've got a weak Prime Minister. We've got a weak Labor government. We've got a cost of living crisis. We don't need these tantrums from left-wingers.
I know, and I'm torn every night when she does something terrible. Do I report on it and give the woman what she wants, give her more airtime, more publicity? But I feel like, Australians have got to know what's going on, but let's not waste more time on her. Hey, Labor are getting a lot of nervous backbenchers, right? And you've been in opposition before, you know the drill. You get them all together and you sort of say to them, we're going to win, come over the barricades with us, don't worry about what's happening. In the case of the current government, of course, they are the incumbents. They do not want to lose. The Prime Minister's saying, I've got a plan, stick with me. The Special Minister of State in the Senate, Don Farrell, says, get out there. He's been stressing the importance of getting up all their senators on the ticket. He wants the lower house MPs to campaign very hard for the Senate as well. The PM says, personally, he'll leave nothing on the field to win the election. How do you see things?
Oh, we've got a Prime Minister who's not just weak, but he's semi-detached and semi-retired. He's got one eye on his retirement home and I suppose one eye on his political legacy. But we've got a government, and what you've seen this week is that they've got 76 bills they want to get through. They're not going to get them through. There's a cost of living crisis in this country. We've got criminals on the street because of Labor's policies. He doesn't really have his sort of control of what's going on. And so there's just weakness throughout this building. The Labor senators I speak to are worried about him, that they won't say anything above a mumble or a grumble, but they know they're in trouble. And you go around Australia, as you do and I do, the mob out there are not listening to this Labor government. Because as Labor government, since The Voice or before The Voice, has spoken about left-wing woke issues, not about the economy. And guess what? Leaders come into their own, and Peter Dutton has come into his own because people look at him and they go, he's a strong leader. He says what he stands for, and he stands for what he says for. He's our guy. I'm a pessimist. The election next year is going to be tight, but I reckon Peter Dutton is going to be Prime Minister after the election, and Anthony Albanese will be in his retirement home.
All right, here's a campaign insider's question that I think my audience will be interested in. Do you fear more the electorate being angry at you when you're their incumbent? Because when they're angry, they're at least emotionally still engaged. Or do you fear they've completely stopped listening and you can't turn their mind? What's worse?
I think it's worse when they're angry at you. At the moment, my view is they've stopped listening. They've given up on Labor. So you've seen this around the world. Incumbent governments, everywhere from Sri Lanka to France to the UK, Biden effectively, Kamala Harris was an incumbent. The mob have just switched off because they believe the incumbent governments are not doing anything for them. And that is what's happening here in Australia. The anger will come when pre-poll starts. And that first week of pre-poll, they'll be lining up to get rid of this government.
You'd be pretty unhappy if you were a ratepayer in the city of Sydney and you find that Clover Moore has donated about $22,000 to the climate activists shutting down the port in Newcastle.
Oh, angry? You should be spitting chips. There is a cost of living crisis in Sydney also, and the fact that any council can give $22,000 to a bunch of layabouts who are trying to destroy Australia's economy, trying to stop people getting on with their jobs, trying to stop people earning money, this just shows they've just got the wrong priorities. If they've got $22,000 to burn, we'll give it to a good charity like the Salvation Army or something like that, not to a bunch of wannabe greenie layabouts. Goodness sake.
James McGrath, thank you for stepping up and covering both sides of the argument there on the panel tonight.